We have found our way. It's a brand new day, and we'll be making history. Are you with me? Won't you stay? We have come so far. This is who we are. And like the rising sun, we have just begun to play our part. This is the time we form the chorus. Lift your voice for those before us. We can rely on one another. Feel the pride, let's show our colors. We are heroes and dreamers. We are restless believers.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are. This is Gail of Gaia, and this is Free Range, where we graze on wild ideas, and we have wonderful guests. And my wonderful guest I'm honored to have on today is Laura Eisenhower. Now, Laura is, she's the great-granddaughter of the 34th President of the United States, Dwight D. Eisenhower, but she will be diving deep into astrology, disclosure of our spiritual and cosmic heritage from the metaphysical, spiritual, and astrological and galactic view, and she has quite a background of knowledge in all these areas, so I'm so happy to have her on. But before we get started, I have a 1-minute commercial. As much as I hate to do any kind of commercial or any kind of sales at all, I don't charge for any of my shows because I think it's important that you're able to see whatever information is out there. But that's not to say that I don't need a little help either with donations or you're purchasing different products. And I say that because I am not able to cover everything on Social Security, so I really do need your help. So anyway, let me get this 1-minute commercial of a new product that I just started carrying. It's called Fix, and it's amazing. I'm using it right now, and we have some wonderful testimonials that go beyond what it's supposed to do. So let me show you that, and then I will. There'll be 2 links in the chat that you can look at, and one is for the business opportunity. The other is just for, to try the product. So anyway, here it goes. Wait a minute. Oh my goodness, I don't know what happened to it. Maybe I won't be able to pay it. Let me bring it back up. Why did all my... That's weird. Okay, let's try this one more time. Oh. Well, so much for that idea. I guess I don't know why the window closed, and that's what happened. So it doesn't want me to do that, I guess. So anyway, let me just bring Laura on, and we'll have a good time, and we'll be talking. So... are you ready, Laura? My little video that I was going to show is not available. Somehow the window closed, and so let me bring you on. How are you? Welcome, welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me. How are you?
Oh, I'm honored to have you. I love all the different things that you do. But one of the things I really wanted, because you're pretty much an expert on astrology. And I wanted to have you give, I haven't had really, I only had one person on, and he didn't claim to be, I don't think he has the same background that you do by a long shot. But anyway, so I'd like to have you explain where we're at right now and how it's impacting disclosure and spiritual things and all that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, well, the sun just entered Leo. It's opposite Pluto right now. We just had a really strong Mars-Uranus conjunction. And, people don't always consider the asteroids and the impact that the asteroids have on the planetary energies. So right before the full moon in Capricorn, there was a Mars-Uranus conjunction, also with a conjunction with a asteroid called Algol, spelled Algol. And it has to do with, gosh, I mean, by some definitions of what that asteroid represents, Satan's head, also the Gorgon Medusa.
Oh,
It's
wow.
like, yeah, really like intense energies. But also when you look at the origins of that story and how Medusa became Medusa, you know, we can see like the patriarchy and the fear of the feminine, and just, you know, the sister that was, I think, she was a hag that cast a spell on her, something like that. Anyway, there's been a lot of ramping up in shocking events that have been major power plays, like really bringing up people's shadow. And that's the thing. Like, if you look at that asteroid, maybe the shadow of, you know, what we can't look at about ourselves, maybe the deepest and darkest aspects about ourselves, or what are the roots of certain traumas that have led us to certain places in our lives that are coming up to the surface. And what's coming up for a lot of people are persecution pictures and the fear
Oh,
of, yeah, persecution. And so it's being leveraged, you know, the traumas of humanity, the unconscious wounds of humanity that we inherited from pantheons and mythology and our galactic history that is so unconscious in us, is always being leveraged by world events, in the form of psyops and false flags and all these different things. So as we were taken into the full moon, Capricorn, we've been dealing with like squares with Chiron, with this Pluto energy as well. And so with Sun moving into Leo with this opposition to Pluto, with the square coming also from Chiron after this Mars-Uranus event. And let me just explain the Mars-Uranus. Mars is like solar plexus, ego, identity. Uranus is a very powerful electrical planet. I mean, it has an electrical energy, and it stimulates awakening, but it's also a very powerful force of destruction and shock and upheaval. Those that are born with a strong Uranus, Aquarian energy, Uranus rules Aquarius, are very forward thinking, very authentic, very much the rebels, free thinkers, you know. So in conjunction with Mars, something is really, really coming to the surface that everybody's feeling. So with that asteroid, you know, it's sort of like the dark side of awakening coming up, where people are being targeted in the divide and conquer strategies and tactics. To keep us locked into our shadow, so that we don't progress or
oh,
heal
wow.
or upgrade, has been the name of the game. So now with this opposition between the Sun and Pluto, it's really about transformation and transcendence. But with the Chiron squares coming at it, which are going to last for quite some time, at least with Pluto, um, Chiron is the wounded healer. Chiron is where we need to resolve our wounds. Instead of look outside of ourselves and see all the different movements and see all the different labels and gravitating towards this side or that side, we really, really got to, or we should, self-reflect, go deep inside, and really understand the galactic history and ancient history of our planet, and understand the planetary consciousness and what it's gone through, in order to really be a part of this ascension. Because the planetary system and body is healing, just as we are as humans. With all that we've gone through, the Earth has gone through it as well. Very much, you know, what the tragedies that happened to her, the humans experience, right? If there's catastrophes, if
Yeah.
there's exploded planets, the whole history of our planet, um, you know, has to do with the loss of our divine blueprint, the tree of life, and the restoration of it. And this planetary system is like a rehabilitation planet for rebuilding all of this. And so all the planetary alignments support this. They throw us growth periods, and we need to feel it. We need to really feel into these energies to experience, you know, where it's taking us. And we know, you know, nature and ourselves, we're encoded with knowing how to heal ourselves. We know this, but we forget this. When we're sick,
Yeah.
when something's off, we go to the doctor. Doctor might help us, but they might also medicate us with things that suppress our emotions, that um, just put a band-aid on things, or just make
Cause
us
more harm than good.
cause more harm than good. We know this about the medical industry, and this has been the big breaking point with the pandemic, right? For humans to see how outer authority is really taking us down a not so good trajectory. So what do we have left to fall back on but ourselves? Healing tools and modalities, things like astrology, medical astrology, sound healing, herbs, you know, all the things that are a much more holistic approach to understanding ourselves. So as we move through the planetary climate and whatever is coming at us. One of the biggest things, are the Chiron energies, because a wounded and traumatized humanity is easily controlled and manipulated. Because, if you're traumatized or you're unconscious to a trauma, if a trigger event happens, you're going to go into survival. If something rattles you, then you're going to look outside of yourself for something to resolve it without getting deeper to like the core root of it. Right. And so if there's deception, if there's false narratives, if there's psyops, if there's, engineered timelines, we want to know what we're reacting to and know where we need a boundary. It's sort of like being in a marriage that you're with somebody who doesn't really love you, but you want to believe they love you and care about you, but they're lying, they're deceiving, they're cheating. They're playing on your self-worth. They're playing on maybe your wounds. We see this with narcissists and empaths or whatever. This is how the system is, the inversions of the vampiric system. So, everything that we're going through right now is about being more self-sufficient, more present with this process, so that when we're going through some of these intense planetary configurations, we aren't being yanked into the shadow aspect of it to the point where we don't do the shadow work. We get caught up in the webs or in the different tactics being used to make it more difficult for us to come together and unify and heal. And so
that's a big problem, it seems. Yeah.
exactly.
To get people to the unity thing.
Exactly.
So,
right. So if there's like a lot of this intensity coming up, we're not a very spiritually mature culture, society, whatever you want to call it. We don't really know how to pass the talking stick and realize that everybody's take on things has incredible value. We are used to having somebody lead, somebody guide, somebody to answer, for us. But it's so divided, and that's what religions and politics and, all different sorts of belief systems have done, is encourage humans to look outside of themselves and count on something else outside of who they are. That those individuals in those positions, they will have an affinity for their audience, but they'll get drunk on the power, and they won't really want to empower the people that are giving them the attention. And so this whole dynamic of leader follower is skewed, because it shouldn't be leader follow. It should be, teacher, student, student, teacher. It should be leader follower, and the follower becomes a leader, and the leader might, like where can it all like harmonize and balance out a bit? Because it's never been about the hierarchical structure. That's very reptilian. That's very draconian. It really is about harmonizing and unifying and realizing we're rebuilding our 12-strand DNA. The 12 houses of the zodiac, the 12 signs, including the 13th sign, is all a part of this rebuilding. Each and every one of us has a very, very important role to play. And, and that's how society's built. You got your doctors, you got your lawyer, you have all these different positions and this diversity that forms this kind of human ecosystem. But where is it leveraging amnesia? Where is it leveraging our wounds and exploiting those things for money? That is the vampiric system, is very much, currency being misused.
Debt slaves. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but this carries over into behavior patterns with people. So the most important thing right now is for people to just humble themselves, to just take the higher road, to look towards self-correction, forgiveness, forgiving others, and like, okay, can we all decide to heal this? Or are we going to allow the infection and allow these tactics to get the best of us? Because everybody is being played. Nobody's immune to it. Everybody is being targeted to some degree. And the whole of our human race has been on this trajectory of an engineered timeline for a really long time that we're breaking free from. That's the awakening, right? But when the awakening is being targeted and conscious communities or truthers or disclosure groups are falling prey to this, or they have, there's plants or, people that have been specifically put in place, willing or unwilling, can we take the higher road instead of dropping down into these tactics that, make matters worse? Because the thing is, love is like the immune system. Unity is like the immune system. And everything that is opposed to it is going to fall away. It's going to not be able to feed. But as long as we're choosing sides or dropping down into that drama and conflict and misery and confusion, in a sense, those that are pushing the buttons in the trigger events, they're the ones that are winning, and we're just like not realizing, what we're allowing. And the thing is, there's so many people that need to deprogram, because there's an enormous amount of people that have been through SSP. There's an enormous amount of people that are holding ancestral patterns, generational curses. There's programming that we were all raised in. I mean, there's no one that doesn't have something to release themselves or wake up from. So the best thing that we can do is, come together, recognize the biggest picture that we possibly can, and do all that we can to heal it. And the ones that are absolutely opposed to it will be the very, very few that are the dark lords, that are the ones that don't want to heal, that will have to be reckoned with. And they already are, because of the positive military operations, and but amongst ourselves,
Right.
it's incredibly important, because what we want to do is isolate the enemy and not mistake people that are being possessed or influenced or triggered. We don't want to cast those individuals as the enemy. We want to sort of see the enormity of the use of dark tech, the way the 5G, the phones, the implants, the just how all of it is creating this perfect storm for us to annihilate ourselves. But if we understand that and we're willing to heal it, we're going to take down the ones that have been playing with these toys, these ET technologies, and we're going to be the override frequency. And the few that have been, attempting to do this and sabotage and hijack our ascension, will be, more easily removed, because this is an organism no different than a human body, this planet, right? And we're all a part of it.
Right. What about the holographic nature and time loops? And do people get in trauma loops where they keep experiencing the same trauma over every time they're triggered? And that's something, for example, that you would be shadow work that you need to address and figure out why.
Yeah.
Is that?
And that's the trauma loop, is like, it can be a similar trauma, but a different storyline, So after all these world wars and galactic wars and all these different things, trauma is trauma, right? A person might have abandonment issues or being bullied or all the things that begin to break down, your sense of self, your sense of empowerment. You can reenact something with a different script, with different costumes, with different, just to sort of trick people. So if we see the progression of like the globalist movement, it's really playing on, people that are very well-intentioned. They think we won the Second World War. They're believing the history books, right? So we're traumatized as a human race. So it's playing on a lot of our traumas of, oh my gosh, our Mother Earth is not doing well. There's these fires that are out of control and global warming and this and that, and we got to do this, we got to do that. These are really well-intentioned concerns, right? The desire to break down the programming and embrace your inner masculine and feminine is being weaponized to the point of gender confusion. You see all these things that are a part of the awakening, but there's the inverted storyline that kind of captures the good intent or the desire to heal into a trap that is taking one into a trajectory of answering to a bunch of to an institution, to a new world order, to further enslavement, instead of understanding that we're elemental beings. We're absolutely connected to Mother Earth, that we are in deep need of healing with her, in understanding our divine blueprint. And that when we heal our inner elementals and we begin to switch on our dormant DNA, the earth responds to us, and we'll notice a much more beautiful world. And when we begin to heal, we can become a greater community, because the willingness to heal is very bonding, right? When you feel like you can be yourself and talk about your wounds, and people are very much in service, really here to help, not just take your money, or not just like give you a bunch of hopium, or have you like follow them and just and not even pay attention to what's coming through you. Yeah, there's a lot of healing from cult mentality, and this kind of thing, right? So it's going to take a bit for people to feel safe anywhere, but it has to start with yourself. Because when you start with yourself and you go through that underworld and that dark night of the soul, you begin to develop a bullshit meter, your discernment grows, and you have found the strength within yourself to just love yourself, to be aligned, to connect with nature, and then have a better compass to know who's who. You'll just feel it in your gut. And you won't get caught up in the gossip or the smear tactics or this and that, because you're solid in who you are. And if you do get caught up in it, it probably would be for the right reasons, not just to go along with the, drama addiction or, the loyal devotee to somebody that you've put on a pedestal outside of yourself. When you're really committed to deep healing and you're really intent on that, and you've gotten to a certain place in yourself, you can tell where it resonates and where it doesn't. And that becomes a very personal journey. What resonates for you might not resonate for others. And I kind of jokingly refer to like going into the grocery store. You don't smack somebody's hand and say, you can't, you shouldn't eat that. You should eat what I'm eating. It's like, we can think what we want. Like, it's not threatening that you're going to go and you're going to get what is good for your being, that is nourishing, and to each their own, right? But you can make recommendations with resources of just pointing out things that you've learned along the way, but you're not going to be like, my way, you got to, we see so many different examples of in life how that doesn't make any sense. So why would it be happening in the disclosure community? Why would it be happening, anywhere? To me, it's not about that right now. To me, it's about, self-awareness, being true to that, and honoring, your intuition, your deep internal voice, your boundaries, and the development of, intuition, discernment. And that the best kind of leadership right now are people that will assist you in that, because the whole model of like leader follower, I think needs to go. And there's nothing wrong with being in a leadership position, but it should be leading by example and assisting people in, finding what works for them. Anything else, I would definitely question. And if you can't question it, then
that's a problem.
Yeah. And the fact that it's so rampant is really surprising to me. But I just wanted to point those things out because there's a lot coming to a head and a lot of negative ego with Chiron in Aries and Mars being the ruler of Aries. This is on the North Node, right? The North Node is the growth period for humanity, and it's going to shift into the North Node Pisces. And so the eclipses activate the nodes. The South Node being Libra is kind of what we're reflecting upon. And then going into the North Node is what we're here to integrate and step into. So we have to look at the ego wounds. And for some, it's going to be the inverted expression of it. And for others, it's going to be the very spiritually mature, like, taking it upon yourself to recognize what needs healing and being a warrior for that process, and a way shower, without it being about leveraging your position above others and abusing it. So this is a big, big wound that goes back into our ancient and galactic history, of how this addiction matrix really cut us off from the rest of all that we are by just kind of really tying individuals into this personality matrix and world of appearances, to the point where we've come to fear our wounds. We want to suppress it. We want to shut it up. We want to just not listen to it. We want, and the whole pharmaceutical industry and like everything is all about masking it or finding an avenue to distract you away from it, whether it's television or shopping or just seeking to be rich or wealthy or anything to make yourself feel better. Because if you fall through the cracks,
and it's a temporary high, basically.
Yeah. Right. And everything else is like, you're just kind of a cast off or, this or that. So we all know that those are the obvious things when we look at society. But how ingrained these behavior patterns are and how they superimpose themselves into, the next level of maybe awakening when there's a trigger event or a plant or something that comes in to stir all that up. We have to look at it like, if we are looping, we're revisiting it again and again to master it once and for all. So it doesn't matter, like, a lot of people say, I thought I was over that. I thought I healed that. And here it comes again. Well, you have to notice that in the different forms and appearances that it comes in, your confidence might be broken, but you're going to get a better kind of confidence, because people don't like to admit, oh, I followed that person, or I talked about this and now I have to admit I'm wrong. They don't like that. They want to avoid it. But when you can be that flexible person that knows this is part of the territory, there's a great confidence that comes to the soul, that comes from the soul, which doesn't form attachments or the false light props that come with the praise of, whatever you gain from it. You can take the losses and keep moving forward without having to defend it, without having to posture it, without being afraid of losing it. And, you know, we're elemental beings, earth, air, fire, water. So on every level of our elemental being, we're going to experience death, rebirth, alchemy, transformation, creation, destruction. You know, these are all parts of the growth periods that take us into the fullness of all that we are. And if we can't do that with fluidity, we allow the gatekeeper to keep us confined in a negative behavior pattern that is just afraid to move to the next level. And that's where the trauma comes in, because of punishment, because of abandonment, because of conditional love that you might have gotten from your parents or society. Like, oh, you didn't get the grade? Well, you're a loser. Oh, you didn't achieve this? Well, you know, you're not going to have dinner with us and you're going to be locked in your bedroom. You know, all these things, generation after generation. Then, of course, the trauma-based mind control families. Oh, my gosh. So, you know, it's very subtle, but it's very real. And the thing is, I think it's a time of embodiment. I think the information, I think we have a lot to go on. Now it's like, what about the way we're all getting along? You know, where can we heal that? Where can we just seek to bring, you know, everyone together? And who really, really doesn't want that? That's the bifurcation to me, you know, because the next and higher level of our experience is not going to be playing in this lower, you know, kind of dynamic anymore. And but it'll always be there when people are ready, you know, because you can only really win the war within. And this is what everything is all about. And what you are able to achieve from within, you're going to experience more from without. And even if it means you're going to be attacked again, your spiritual immune system is just being tested. How much more do you need to build that armor? How much more are you going to face that trauma or that loop again until you are so solidified and your boundaries so strong that it just cannot touch you? And I think that is an initiation and a part of how, you know, these adversities are blessings to help us to rebuild and reclaim the treasures of our dormant DNA and lost greater abilities.
Do you think that where are we in regard to the photon belt? Are we in that yet, or are we still?
Yeah, I think we entered that a while back. The whole ascension window period to me has been about that. I mean, the sun started to move through the 13th sign of Theicus in 2010, and it's ruled by the ether element, and that's when the corrections took place. And when I say corrections, I'm talking about the reversal grid energies that were, you know, causing like digression. And digression of, you know, the human is, you know, aging sooner than we normally would if we weren't under like this programming or all these different types of programmings, poison in our foods and water and just everything we breathe in and just everything we're exposed to and what that does to us. It's more important to understand, though, it's the belief systems and thought forms that are the most toxic, that once you break through that, you can alchemize and, you know, heal anything. And this is what the photon belt and what the ether energy to me is all about, is being able to break that down to bring in, you know, this ether element. We're earth, air, fire, water. Well, what is ether? It's the breath of life. It's the unconditional love of source. You know, it's getting out of the reward punishment system, out of the duality, out of the divide and conquer, out of the, you know, here's my label, what's your label, you know, just all these things that we're seeing the next generation experiencing on a whole other level that's weaponizing our awakening, because it is picking on, you know, the key points of what people are starting to comprehend and understand, and breaking down the programming of the generation before. So yeah, we've been there, and in that there's, you know, a descending hub and an ascending hub. And so it's sort of like that split when people talk about bifurcation. So those that are like getting the activations and the planet that's accreting to the integration of these higher energies cannot hold the same space as somebody that's descending and digressing into, you know, AI or assimilated into, you know, a hive mind.
Transhumanism.
Yeah. So how does that look? I mean, you know, do we know, like, you know, if we die, do we just appear someplace else, or do we go through the death process? Are we just shifting timelines? I mean, our timeline's changing all the time. I mean, it's something that we're just going to experience, but, you know, to look at like how that's going to look or what the outcomes might be, it's so much more important to, you know, just do what it takes to stay aligned, do whatever it takes to stay aligned, and do your best as far as, you know, working on the unity piece. The most important thing I feel is finding your personal sovereignty, finding your truth as a prerequisite to unifying with others in community, because you need to just solidify that in order to protect yourself from how humans abuse power and how sometimes they lose their capacity to really be of service when a person's vulnerable and they're just looking outside of themselves, right? We have to know that the ultimate lesson for us right now as a humanity, and why there is such a sense of betrayal, or it's just you followed this and it fell apart, or you thought you could trust this and it fell apart. Let it all fall apart, because you're meant to fall back on you. And once you are able to do that, then you've accomplished the ultimate achievement. And I think that's the goal for every single soul. And that's what my book is about. My whole childhood is just like going into that zone of, if it doesn't resonate, I'm thrown back into, I'm going to listen to me. Wasn't always easy. But I think, we've all done that to get to where we are today at some point. We've had to do that a lot. But we're being constantly challenged and tested, because this is the final death throes of these parasitic beings and this inverted system being able to capture and siphon, and harvest the creative imagination of humans into it. So it's going to ramp up. And the planetary alignments are showing massive, massive activations. But at the same time, all the deepest of deepest wounds are coming up to the surface to be healed. And in that, the pain can be so great that a false flag event will absolutely distract a person away from it. You'll channel that pain into that event to the point where you're going to miss out on what that planetary energy was bringing up in you to heal, which is connected to the planetary grids, the planetary consciousness, and the larger picture of our galactic history. Most of what we, see in the news is engineered. Doesn't mean lives don't, get lost, but it's engineered. But yes, there are a lot of white hat operations. There's a lot of positive military, so I don't know their every move, but I know they're out there. And, the best we can do is work on ourselves, because in increasing that within ourselves, we're another, part of that ripple effect that begins to switch it on in others. And it's, just like frequency, if they can do that with 5G, if they can turn, a human into thinking thoughts that aren't their own, and a perfectly benevolent person into an assassin in a mind control program, think of what sound healing and positive mantras and words that we speak to one another can do to offset that and override it. So we just have to make sure that we're strong enough to withstand the bombardment of the frequency modulations and manipulations coming in, and all the trigger events and all the different tactics being used to, turn on each other, or just drop into a very immature way of handling an injury or a wound or a trauma that resurfaces. It's time to hug and heal and just be like, all right, we're all like rehabilitating together. Enough with the like, I got all the answers and I'm the ultimate healer crap. No, that person is struggling on some level, or they're just and if not, great. But then they wouldn't be threatened if you question them. So across the board, it's just like, you just see it. It's just revealing itself. And all the planetary energies are showing that once we move through this Chiron activation of the Chiron wound with Aries, and then moves into North Node Pisces, we're going to have to look at our creative imagination. What is infecting it? What has been installed in that multidimensional part of our being that we had called consciousness, or just the astral realm when we dream? What is like installed in there that is causing us to enable a future that we don't want? Can we see it more clearly now? Can we dismantle it? Can we break it down? And how do we break it down? We override it because we have better visions, better creativity, because we are the creative beings. Vampirism means that they're stealing your creative energy to engineer a timeline. They don't have their own creative expression. So getting that power back is to be able to dream, envision, and manifest. And where are there things being plugged into us, being installed in us, or that have been installed in us that are linking into, any kind of device or tower? What can we do to offset it? And there's plenty of healing technologies and armors and ways to absolutely override it. And when we do, within ourselves, when we win the war within, we dismantle and take down the dark weaponry, and we realize that we're the highest technology. They're just trying to imitate what they can by dropping us into a low vibration, though, through keeping us in a trauma loop, because that's the only way these dark technologies work. When you are neutral to the games being played, then all of a sudden they're just a bunch of useless weapons that are just like toys that just don't function. So,
wow, that's fascinating. I wanted to ask you something when you were talking about leadership earlier. Do you think that we will move away from the typical leadership roles and move to something like regional councils or something on that order?
Yeah, I think councils, I mean, if you look at all the higher councils or councils, and just the way community works, or a family unit, you know? So when we look at like society and we look at leaders, they have kind of a parental role. People kind of look up to them, you know, like a fatherly figure. You know, we don't have enough motherly figures. And if we do, they're like satanic or dark or just not like what we want as far as like most of the leaders that have been out there. So once all that is exposed, which it already is, but more brought to the surface to the point of like it being very, very obvious, and well, it's already obvious to all of us, but once it's like the theater part, the clown show starts to just like become so loud and real to people that they're being they're more able to see through it, then they're going to be ready, because right now they're being slowly, I feel personally, I feel they're being prepared. It's like and sort of prepared for, all right, now that you see how ridiculous and insane all this is, now look at what is being done to take this down, because there's a much larger picture. The guardians, you know, the source creator and representatives of that purity that are here, that are making their way into our hearts and into our souls from within, and also how that is going to come at us from without. That structure will crumble, and what is going to replace it? Well, you know, communities, councils, you know, when you look at just like education, you know, and having a library and being able to gravitate towards what you feel like learning, like our children, they're going to lead the way, but we need to give them the space to help us know where to guide them by listening to what they have to say, not indoctrinating them, not controlling them, not just going along with whatever. That all needs to be broken down. So, you know, I feel that it's all very natural. We don't have to overthink it, because the overthinking it is really like regurgitating maybe what we've been taught, because you usually have to think about something that's been taught in order to, you know, pass it along. If it's really soul centered, it's just intuitive. You just know it in your heart. You know what your role is, you know what your calling is, and you play your part, and you play it really well. So the more each and every one of us knows ourselves, the more we're going to hold our position of what it should be. And right now we're dismantling all the things that are using that energy for you know, other, you know, purposes and reasons. As far as the larger picture is concerned, there are a lot of great doctors, there are a lot of great teachers, but when you look at what happened in 2019, 2020, what are they using those skills and abilities for? They're using those talents and skills and abilities to take us down a really, really dark road. And unless that person can say, I don't consent, and I'm not going to let my skills and abilities be used for this, and redirect it, you know, that's too bad. That's a cop out. You know, if children, you know, are just getting, you know, the stuff put in their bodies, and they're just not even given a moment to breathe or think for themselves, and they're just going along with the latest trend and this and that, to detrimental ramifications. We have a whole new generation that is being just genetically modified. Anyway,
Yes.
so when all this collapses, which there are indications that absolutely that's happening, while there's so much still trying to keep it alive, it's the consciousness of the collective in each human that is going to determine which timeline they experience, I feel. So the more you gather together with groups and community, the more you are the change you want to see, and you don't wait for something out there to do it. You're going to notice the things that resonate with it, that are speaking about it, that support it, while you're, you know, taking on that role in your life. So the leadership is more leading by example, you know, playing your part and playing it real well, living your truth and living it real well, you know. Then, you know, whether you have a microphone, you're talking to 1,000 people, or you're just being you and you're living, you know, in your home, and you just have great rapport with your neighbors or your animals, or, you know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We're all stationed at different places, right? We all have a unique zodiac chart. You might have somebody with 5 planets in the 12th house. They're not going to be the ones that are in the public eye. Then you got the ones in the public eye, but they need the ones, the wisdom keepers, or the ones that are, you know, they're in the background holding the space. You know, we all have something very important, you know, and the thing is, it's not like we need each other, but we can activate something in one another and then be like, oh yeah, that part of me I can access again. Because if we look at it, 12 houses, 12 strands of DNA, we're not all going to have planets in every house. We're not going to have planets in every sign, but we each carry, you know, a different expression. and the unity consciousness is to switch these dormant aspects on. So the best way to switch something dormant on is to be around somebody that has a predominant amount of something you might not have in dominance, but it's dormant, it's still there, and vice versa, right? So the divide and conquer strategy is for us to not be switching each other on, but to pit us against each other. Like, those that are more right brain or left brain, or more leaning towards the practical, will make fun of those that are, more into the woo-woo spiritual, right? And they'll say that woo-woo instead of being like, oh, yeah,
They do.
God for that person. No, but they redirected that under religions, right? And so people are either religious or they're atheists. They can't find the middle ground of just the spiritual. And of course, we know that that's just mainstream that I'm talking about. But what we have come to do is dismantle, the structures to get to the higher Saturn. Saturn has to do with structure, responsibility, and discipline. It's the law of structure. And because it's been inverted, because of the Saturn moon matrix, because of the artificial rings that relate to the dormant junk DNA that has been functioning on a simulation, false reality, fake reality that has that we've been consenting to as a false surrogate parent that is taking us down a dangerous road, false partner, negative partner that's taking us down a catastrophic road. It's simply like breaking down all of that and recognizing what emerges. And in the breaking down and rehabilitation, that is where we are right now, facing the wounds, finding the right medicines, finding the right support, finding the right people, finding the right modalities and tools. Because in this accelerated time of facing the wounds, look at the detriment of what they're throwing upon people. mRNA, and also introducing the trigger event to even put that stuff in a person's body. That it's like taking a natural event of awakening to your divine blueprint and all of a sudden telling your children, not telling you, but the school, telling your children, oh yeah, what's your pronouns? It's like there's no space and room for this without it being hijacked, because they understand what the planetary alignments are. And so that's kind of the name of the game.
Wow. What about the feminine energy coming in? Could you?
The reason there's such an emphasis on that is because of the patriarchal program. The negative alien agenda has specifically, gone patriarchal, right? It hasn't always been that way. It just, as long as there's imbalance, it doesn't matter. Because if you have patriarchy, then you can have feminism, right? And then you can fight to take something away to replace it with something that's still out of balance. So everything that has been external in our world is really not our authentic truth. Personality matrix is 3D. 3D is lower chakras. 3D has lost the ability to stay strong and true to the soul. But you have people that are very soulful, right? They have their soulmates. They're living a soulful life. They're very soul-centered. And they're beginning to really, really see through things because they already had that going for them. Whereas others got caught up in the addiction matrix, and they might be the cheaters, the deceivers, the narcissists, the manipulators, the ones that are going to, rip you off, that we see also amongst us. So the soul-centered ones are going to make it, even if they don't quite get things to the depth that we do. And a lot of people who think they're awakened that still are in negative ego, who think they have all the answers, they still got work to do, right? I mean, it's just a time of really, recognizing all that. So anyway, the feminine coming in, it's really understanding the woundedness of the consciousness of this planet, which is connected to Tiamat, the exploded Tiamat, and all that galactic history, and why this planet.
Which we were never taught any of that.
No. So we're not taught any of it. And this is the thing. Humans have unconscious trauma connected to mother. So there's a lot of mother wounds. People have mother wounds with their biological mother. They have past life wounds. Maybe with their own experience as a woman, maybe coming in a feminine body in this lifetime. But regardless of what your soul experience has been, men who have been cut off from their inner feminine, fighting wars, taught not to cry, to shut that down, to be controlling, to be the authoritarian, and the woman should just listen and shut up. All this stuff has really been masking this divine union and sacred union and the true essence of this divine blueprint. The sacred union of the masculine and feminine, the divine masculine and feminine, the Christ Sophia. So the mother energy wounded the Akamoth, the Tiamat explosion, Akamoth being a part of the Sophionic body, and Tiamat being the dragon queen, and getting yanked into this phantom matrix, put in reversal grid manipulation. harnessing her creative power, and binding her to the underworlds. Part of the planetary system has been the healing of this, because this was just a portion of her being. So aspects of the great cosmic mother coming in to heal have shown themselves in things like the Venus transits. And the Venus transits to me is like the unconditional love of the mother, that even though this wounded earth, even her body being wounded, and humans going through traumas and tragedies and being refugees from exploded planets and going through Lemurian Holocaust and Atlantean cataclysms, Nephilim wars, and electrical war, that's not in chronological order. It's just like, whoa. Then the trauma is lost to us, junk DNA, and we're born with amnesia. And whatever we learn in school is what we learn. So the return of the mother is the return of her being able to anchor back into the planet, just like when we return to ourselves. If we have a wounded child, if we've been traumatized, if we've been so traumatized that we left our body, but there's a part of us that is still in the body, but in a lot of pain, how do you handle that pain? You got to come in and you got to heal it. But if you're dealing with like things that constantly put you in a state of, enslavement, we're talking larger picture. We're talking reversal grid technologies. We're talking like deep state, the cabal. We're talking Baphomet. We're talking Satanists. We're talking like everything, like what this planetary body has like been going through. The mother energy was not able to stay anchored with all these different tactics. And so with the mother energy returning and anchoring back in as the mother arc, it's helped to bring back the proper circulation through the planetary grid network that helps us to switch on our dormant DNA, because the ether element was put in reversals. The dodecahedron, which is a platonic solid, was put in reversals, so that energy would be harvested to give power to that 1%, to give power to the elites, and the rest of us, would live, pretty short and unhealthy lives, or would just end in some kind of illness, tragedy, injury, fight world wars, or whatever comes with like even being cut off from cosmic and natural law. So the mother energy returning is reclaiming her body, and reclaiming her body, she's able to nurture the physical planet. She's able to nurture us from the inside out. And the inverted pentagram is symbolic of this ether energy going into the ground and into reversals, where physical matter is very limited. And when the Venus transits that have been taking place and forming this alignment of the pentagram for thousands of years corrected this inversion to turn it upright again, this is like the cycles of Venus, the unconditional love of the mother, and her own healing process dropping back into her body, that we're experiencing humanity in this great awakening. So in actual fact, people don't seem like tie the two together, that the great awakening is being a part and being aware of and being a conduit to and being a embodiment of this process. And when we switch that on, or when we're in touch with that within ourselves, that ether element transmutes, alchemizes, and dismantles the dark weapons, the implants, the programs, the toxicity, the heavy density, the genetic damage. Mitochondrial DNA is connected to the mother, and the damage of the mitochondrial DNA that has been passed generation to generation is being healed. And so what this is doing is it's moving past the gatekeepers. It's busting down the gatekeepers, and we're starting to integrate and realize that the dormant strands of DNA are sacred union, alchemical marriage, and hierogamic union. It is the return of the Christ Sophia, that union. But the reason the tension has been on the mother is because the planetary body is feminine, and it's a 13D monadic core, and it's in relationship to the masculine. It doesn't mean that it's separate from it, but it's just the nature of that particular exploded planet and the loss of that template, that this became a rehabilitation planet, with the attention needing to be on the mother, the nurturer, the one that gives birth. That requires the masculine. That's why within ourselves, when we integrate polarity, we conceive new realities. We influence timelines. When the two forces are working together, we can, plant seeds of our visions and dreams into the womb, into the soil, to give birth to what we want to give birth to. But if we're giving birth and enabling things that we don't want, then we're in that reversal, and those energies that are split and in dysfunction are allowing archonic forces and entities to come through us and trick our minds into manifesting and creating something we don't want. because we're creative beings, and this loss of that connection is why we're enabling a future we don't want, but we don't realize we're actually doing it. We're buying into the vampirism. We're mistaking it for something that cares about us. So this restoration helps shield us, helps us to attract the life events and experiences that we need in order to restore this union, and not consent, to have a boundary, to know to say no, and to just return to all that we are. And the planetary body and system is doing it. So the thing is, with ascension, it's happening. The question is, can we align with it? Can we allow these initiations and growth periods without medicating it, without freaking out, without thinking that we're crazy because somebody told us we were crazy? And that's what's really sucky about going through these school systems, because, you know, I remember, like, I don't want to talk about my life, but you know, if you have an enormous response to something, deep emotions or anger, just anxiety, it's just like, medicate it. Something's wrong with you, because you're supposed to answer to outer authority that's going to manage it. And that's BS. We're all supposed to be healing it, to feel it, to heal it. We're all supposed to be moving through all these, you know, enormous energies, but we need to give it a voice so that it doesn't become destructive, so that we're not just acting out because we don't know where it's coming from. And like you said, we didn't learn it in school. So we're processing things we don't understand. And that's why they medicate it, because they don't want us to understand. Just silence it, because if you don't take this medication, you're going to begin to gravitate towards finding this kind of information, because that's what's really, really hiding deep within each and every one of us. It's a buried treasure that is screaming to be heard and recognized and processed, so that, you know, we're not vulnerable to the things that feed on our wounds, our traumas, and our unconscious amnesia to all the events that have taken place in our world history.
Now, this reversal that they put the entire planet in, is that going to be switched back to the way it was supposed to be? I mean,
yeah, that's what the Venus transits have done. So if you look at the inverted pentagram, the guardian forces that have come, the grid workers, I mean, yes, we're already, those corrections have already taken place. And if you think about it, like, if you change your mind about something, maybe a habit that you were once doing, maybe a partnership that you decided to leave, a job you decided to leave, a belief system that you broke through, it takes the physical a while to catch up, right? But the energy, it has to happen in the energetic world first. And then it steps down into the physical, and the physical changes, but it moves at a very different speed than consciousness. Consciousness moves a lot quicker than physicality. So what has happened on an energetic level, as far as what's been anchored here as well, and what is, you know, being healed and cleared, you know, this is sort of the byproduct, you know, of a lot that has already been established as a victory. You know, the kind of fallout that is being covered up. You got the bad guys covering it up. You got the good guys sort of playing with that and leveraging that a bit to help guide us into, like, a place of greater awareness and understanding. And those are the people building the healing centers, writing books, you know, being like, okay, this is what we're dealing with. Come over here, guys. Don't go over there. It's much safer over here, right? So that's already there. It's all right under everybody's nose. The best healing tools, modalities, and herbs and things that you can take to thrive in these times, it's all here. The planetary energies, those reversals have been corrected. But if you can keep the mind control alive, if you know, are a parasitic thing, you're going to still try and feed, you know? I mean, just think about how when a person does a parasitic cleanse, or even if you have kids and you try to get rid of their lice, even if they know that their whole population is going to be wiped out, they're going to do everything they can to still stay alive. They don't even care. They don't see the bigger picture. They're in that survival mode of, they just want to feed. This is what their life force is, and this is what they require to even be alive. And most of the people that are operating on the world stage have altars. They're Manchurian candidates, sleeper agents, or they're running altars, right? So when that begins to dismantle because people aren't giving it the power anymore, the people are what is keeping the inversions alive. If the people stop believing in it and that collapsed, we would be in such a beautiful world right away, because everything else, the foundational energies, have been corrected. That's what this whole awakening process has been. But if, you know, you're going to keep feeding these guys and they're able to assimilate you into AI or depopulate you, wipe you out, take your consciousness and battery it into something, you're going to have to, live that out. But doesn't mean you're dragging everybody else down that timeline with you. And that's the thing we have to hold strong. We can't look at outer world events and be like, it's either doom or gloom or we're ascending. The thing is, know in your soul that you're ascending, and whatever you're witnessing, you're still a witness to, because in this bifurcation process, there's still going to be a bridge between the two splits of people in service trying to help, trying to wake them up. But I kind of look at it like there's a sinking ship and we're throwing lifeboats and preservers. But are you swimming to pull as many in as you can, but are you drowning in the process? When is it time to let go? And that's kind of, I think, the crisis right now that a lot of people are facing. And the thing is, It's not about, did you vote for this guy or that guy? Did you get the jab or did you not? It doesn't matter about that. It's, can we still love each other despite our differences? That is what is going to rescue every single soul on a better timeline. There's nothing that can't be healed, dismantled, or cured. But the question is that divide and conquer agenda been strong enough to separate yourself from each other, right? So of course, if souls don't want to talk to you anymore because you didn't get it, they're in a dangerous, precarious place. But if they still love you and they're just confused and they're trying to figure it out, there's still a lifeline there, right? And it's really not even about right or wrong, like, we're the ones that know the way. That person could have a breakthrough that has nothing to do with you on their own personal terms and overcome something. The thing is, the level of bioweapon and attack is equal to, and the result is equal to the potential that can be revealed in this particular era that we're in, this time of history that we're in. So the insult is as powerful as the revelation of what we could be. And simply the mind control breaking down is going to be the ultimate ability to override it and overcome it. Because you can maybe overcome it, but if you're still hooked in, the next psyop is going to happen and you're going to fall for it. So even if your body can overcome it, they're going to throw the next wave, the next insult. So, it's sort of like if you're in a bad relationship, you can overcome maybe an insult and an injury and bounce back, still be invested in it though. There has to be a real clear distinction between you buying into any more deception that comes through any kind of false flag or psyop. But I think love is the ultimate, and that's so important that we hold, that we don't let any of it divide and conquer us, because regardless of the cabal doing it, a lot of people still struggle in their own personal lives with things that they need to quit or things that they're still processing or trauma loops that they're still dealing with. So whether it's coming from the outer cabal or whether it's just your own internal patterning or ancestral patterns you're trying to clear, let's all cut each other a lot of slack. We're all doing the best we can. But the whole deal is for all of us, no matter where it's coming from, we're very resilient. We can overcome a lot. If we don't get it this time around, we're going to come back until we get it, because no soul is left behind. We're all going home to source. It's just how quickly can we, get over, some of these tactics is the question. And, but are we going to fall prey, for another thing? And that's, the endless challenge until we realize, like, we're here for self-mastery and to be an ascended master eventually, not just be on some timeline because, there's governmental disclosure or something like, like some event takes place that ascends us all. It just doesn't work that way. We're all like replicas of the planetary system and planetary body. And until we're like, realizing how these events that are unfolding can be strong catalysts to our remembrance versus taking us down a road of more and more forgetfulness, we're going to keep repeating.
I heard someone say that the light workers need to change to be heart workers now, because the light is here, and people need to open their hearts, and that's a big thing. There's several people that have a few questions. Would you mind taking a couple questions?
Yeah, well, I see one right there. All souls back to source. Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna stay evil, you're gonna just be like really turn into space dust and be recycled back into source, not because you're a great being, but because you've expired. The false light expires. So where is it going to go? It's sort of like it gets composted back in, and a soul is going to go through, if that soul is still there, because usually the soulless ones never heal, and because they're not even in possession of themselves. It's some demonic thing. But if a soul is like every soul has an opportunity to heal. Every soul has an opportunity to heal. It doesn't matter how long it takes. I mean, think about those that have been forgiven from the most heinous and horrific crimes. A lot of them were, maybe possessed, maybe were splintered, maybe were under MK Ultra, maybe were
controlled. Yeah.
so abused themselves that that's all they knew. I mean, yeah, I think the unconditional love of creation is for real, but yeah, also just don't you gotta not earn your way back, but you gotta purify to be able to, come back. And there's some things that'll just expire that'll be recycled back in. Yeah. So what questions do you have?
Somebody would, and there was a question back. I don't know how far back it went, but they were asking about NPCs, non-person characters, and how many actual humans, divine humans, are on the planet.
It's hard to say about numbers. I mean, people talk about the 144,000, and there's just a very mixed bag. But when you think about those, they're activators. When divine humans came in, their energies crossed with the AI signals. AI has been around for a long time. So, any divine template, which we've seen, is corruptible, but there's aspects of it that are incorruptible, which is why it holds the seed to be able to heal and override dark forces and manipulations, because it comes from source. It's there's a part of it that it can always repair. But if it gets so far away from its source to the point of total disconnection, that doesn't, it loses its link. But as long as the link is there, there's an opportunity for it to heal itself. So it's hard to say. But even Lisa Renee talks about we're at a time right now where the surface Illuminati groups controlled by negative alien factions will come to the end of the road and face their maker, alive or in the death passage, where it will be a choice of truth or consequences for their actions. They must cease their nefarious activities sourced from the anti-human blood bonds of the Luciferian covenant. And basically, it'll be... they must continue to cooperate with revealing the truth to the planetary inhabitants by humbling themselves and coming back to the natural laws of God's source, or they will face spiritual obliteration through the second death. The second death will be explained to those in this predicament, and those that refuse rehabilitation in order to remain anti-God, which is the forfeit of God-given soul and spirit and the decimation of the station of identity into consciousness units that will ultimately be absorbed back into the source or central point of all union, as we have entered the planetary liberation phase and there are no further options available. So wow. I know I said that kind of fast, but that's kind of what I've been talking about. Is Eisenhower petitioned the Guardians through the help of Valthor to put an outer barrier around the planet to corner these dark beings, so none could leave and no more could come in. And when I see what she's written, and I look at all the dots connecting with all the people I've talked to and the synchronicities that have taken place in my life, it makes a lot of sense what she's saying to what I learned about Eisenhower and Valthor petitioning the Guardians. The Guardians are connected to planetary systems, but because of a lot that happened with the Anunnaki, we really needed to invoke this healing process, just like we need to invoke our own healing. We can't just let ourselves continue to drive off the cliff. We have to take command and be like, whoa. We gotta steer this back and get back into alignment. It's always here for us. It's unconditional. It's always there. But we're operating, on a planet that got overtaken and almost like a planetary corpse that really lost its mother. So the mother energy was always going to return, but the humans had to declare that we were going to be willing to embrace this and awaken to it. And so migrations of advanced souls have come in to hold that energy and to remind people and to dig deep into our lost history, our galactic history, to be able to even, comprehend what it is we almost completely lost. So now they're being cornered to the point where whatever we're seeing in the world stage is really just a lot of theater and a lot of there's positive operations, there's negative, it's a very, very mixed bag. We're seeing the showdown in front of our eyes, but it's very much in a facade type of setting. But from what I've come to understand, talking to SSP people, talking to a lot of different colleagues and clients, that they absolutely are being taken down, and they are given a choice. So the ones that are choosing to stay nefarious and continuing in their dark ways, those are the final death throes of what we still see on the world stage with the dark forces. But their time is up. So I think we're going to really, really begin to notice all that beginning to clear away. And I'm feeling really, really confident that by this time next year, we're going to have a lot less of this insanity. I think this is going to be the toughest kind of year in a lot of ways, because we're being asked deep in our being to really, really face negative ego wounds and where that can take one. And because ego has been so compartmentalized from the rest of ourselves as a humanity, it's a really, really easy thing to toy with from the outer world, through social media, through all these trigger events, through Mockingbird media, through all these different, kind of tactics. And it's really just like a testing time of, that those that will fail will eventually be winning. Allow that failure, because then you will be victorious, and accept that failure of like, oh my God, you were wrong. Yes. So you failed in that, but guess what? That's where you find the victory. Drop those ego attachments. We all at some point have to admit we're wrong about something we once thought good of.
Exactly. That's a big issue for people. It really is.
Yeah, whether it's, governments, politics, religion, or just your favorite freaking truther speaker, it doesn't freaking matter. Wherever you find it, a new age community, this or that, it all ultimately, you're going to keep manifesting something that isn't trustworthy if you still have failed to find yourself, because that is where all souls are guided to, rediscover. So you're going to, attract that until you get home. And then once you get home, you're going to feel a sense of community. You're going to feel a lot safer and a lot better, because, you're going to feel a lot more solid within yourself. So, and it doesn't mean like we're going to have the same experience with the people that you had that catalyst experience with. That's why I don't go into the smearing or the, gossip world. It's like, you have that experience. That's your unique experience with that person. It might not be the same depending on karma, depending on, what agreement you have with that person. It's not a one size fits all with anybody. So can we all just love each other?
Right. And a big part of that is acceptance, to, love each other and accept some differences that may exist, as long as they're not dark differences.
Yeah.
People are asking.
People are asking what?
No, go ahead. I was just going to.
Yeah, if it's really dark differences, if there's something really, that always will be called out. It's like, that has to be called out. If we're talking about rape, if we're talking about criminal activity, great, put it out there. Like that's a whole different thing. If something criminal is going on, if somebody, is saying, there's serious abuses happening behind the scenes, it needs attention. When we're talking narratives, when we're talking, this and that, when we're talking, but we're going to have a whole different judicial system. Everything's going to be more in alignment with cosmic and natural law. And
do you believe that all has to come down?
Being able to really read a soul too, so that those hidden demons or those wounds or those trauma patterns, can be looked at. Like if you, and I say this kind of redundantly, but if you can turn a perfectly benevolent person into an assassin, I bet you can turn a pedophile or a criminal back into a good person by activating those parts of the brain and working to rehabilitate. And if you can't, get them off the streets and get them away from children and humans.
Yeah. The ability to change is there if they choose it, but if with free will choice and they choose not to, there won't be any coming back on their part.
Right. And it wouldn't be in the form of mind control. It'd be consent. You have a damaged brain, you it was done to you and you're now the perpetrator. It's being able to admit, saying, hey, I was blackmailed and I'm doing terrible things and I'm working for awful people. Please don't hate me. I'm not the enemy. I feel stuck. We have to, be the open arms to encourage people to step down, to not be afraid of us, to not be afraid, because, we need to understand, like look at Kathy O'Brien, look at people that are telling their stories. Look at people that have overcome being mind controlled to do horrific things that are on the healing path. If we make it a scary thing to do, they're not going to do it. But we need the resources and we need the healing centers, which, are popping up all over, to address this in a really deep and real way, because the whole the entertainment industry, religious figures, politicians, we'd be rescuing so many children that were abused and tortured and split into altars. We'd be recovering from all of this so quickly if we just address that and encourage, people to, and then all the
A lot of people don't want to believe that it even happens or exists. I think it's starting to open up more than it has in the past. But I mean, I have people that just, oh, that's conspiracy theory. Everything's conspiracy.
I think most dark players have been abused and trained or MK Ultra'd into being that way, and some it's just generational. A lot of sexual misery programs, the dark reversal grid technology, the frequency manipulations, our tainted food. If people are drinking lots of Coca-Cola and they're just empty vessels. Anyway, on and
they
on.
Say they're putting nanotech.
Just everything that keeps us from being soul-centered, keeps us from self-reflecting and self-correcting, and this has been going on for thousands of years, and it's made us a really, really miserable race of beings. Absolutely.
Yeah. Someone was asking about the med beds. Is that something that's going to come forth? Of course, everybody's always
people already say they have
that.
them. I mean, I go to events, they're like, the med bed over here, and there's like, just whatever, however you want to define it, whatever you think that might look like, So yeah, I mean, all that's coming. The star beings were very intent on sharing these advanced healing technologies, and they were refused by a lot of people, a lot of world leaders that didn't want us to be empowered. But there are individuals that have them. There are those in human form that come from those places, those higher realms that are here to know what to do and how to make those available, for sure. And all that is right under our nose. Absolutely. And we have to know, you might think you have to wait for it, but if you really, almost look at like, what do those advanced technologies hold that we don't? I mean, everything that's a technology mimics something that we already have an ability to do. But of course, we're not going to like be able to unlock those abilities right away. But I mean, if we're talking about like regrowing limbs, and I mean, the things that they have in the SSP programs, it's unbelievable. A lot of those technologies are also in the hands of, individuals that use them, in these projects and programs. I think, though, yeah, we're going to see a massive disclosure of these, kind of healing technologies, but humanity has to want it. If you see how much stubbornness there is to, people's awakening, you can even offer like really, really great ideas to somebody dying of cancer, and they'll be like, nope, don't want to hear it. It's not what my doctor said. It's like, as a collective, you have to want something to manifest it. So yes, in our own individual lives, if you want it enough, you're going to manifest the synchronicities to find it on your soul path. As a collective, we have to have enough numbers that really, really want it, and I believe that we've crossed that line, that mark.
Oh, okay. Once someone wanted to ask a question, and I said yes, so I was hoping that she would ask the question, and we could move on. Here it is. Walla Beauty Brand. Ask your question now. Okay. Otherwise, we're about getting ready to wind it down. Okay. Well, maybe she can't think of a question fast enough right now.
Oh, me?
Okay.
Or somebody? So somebody's saying, I want to unlock my abilities like that. So,
okay.
You can unlock your abilities just on your own. If you have something you feel is keeping you from it, I highly recommend getting an astrology reading. Whether for me or somebody else, I do astrology readings, and it's really helpful to know like what is going on, what part of your chart is being activated. If you look at epigenetics, thought forms, beliefs influence our DNA. So if there's damaged DNA, it's operating under a program. Because if the DNA is damaged, it can only be a program. Our body does not thrive under programmings. It gets sick. It gets diseased. And if we are repressing our gifts and abilities, which starts with having a voice, speaking your truth, being true to yourself, those abilities can be energy blocks and actually, cause health issues. So you want to, uncover this. You got to get the flow going, right? People who are just like very, very creative and have so much to share, when they finally find that outlet for, writing or painting or dancing or, just like setting yourself free, that is a start. But we don't sometimes realize where we might be locked up. We might have been discouraged from doing something or didn't think we were good enough at it or talented. It doesn't matter. You just got to get the flow going, get the, and know, if you're mistaking an outer authority voice for your inner voice, because we're so young when things get conditioned into us that sometimes we hear that inner voice, but it's not coming from us. It's coming from something that was installed in us or something conditioned into us. And we have to just get to know ourselves more in order to know which voices to silence and which ones to listen to. And when we listen to the ones that's really us, we can feel the difference in frequency because it feels activating, feels empowering, instead of this thing that just feels constricting and makes us feel low, makes us feel, like, oh, I'll never figure this out, or what do I need to do, or like, what if I never, it's like that's all, like, that's just all nonsense. Everybody's got Uranus, Pluto, Neptune, the great initiators, the outer planets in their chart, which will, switch all this on and take us through the growth periods we need and the initiations. And, for some, at times, there's going to be an acceleration of when these things, turn on, but you can, also encourage it before, like, maybe a big event happens, and just hold space for, that flow, because it's all there. So if there's something flowing, you might expose yourself to it through sound healing, right? Until you're activated to be the
that is awesome.
Yeah, it's all there. It's
sound
all
healing.
in every chart I see. Everybody holds the potential to unlock these abilities. It's all in there. It's just a matter of, like, it's all kind of like a puzzle, right? What's kind of getting in the way? What is the root of this? And to me, it's all a treasure map. Every single zodiac chart is a treasure map to get into the 0-point unified field, to get into a place of, not looping in patterns, but moving through growth periods, initiations, through gatekeepers, through frequency fences, through limitation. So
I just want you to know that the audience thinks that you're a rock star, so that's great. I love what you're saying,
cool.
and it's really cool. So I think that is. I don't see any recent questions. I was waiting for one from the woman who asked, but she didn't put one up that I can see. But anyway. Let's see what else. There was one other thing. Oh, I want to tell you, aren't you having a seminar or webinar or whatever it is?
So yeah, before we
Truth
close,
Frequency.
Yeah,
the Truth Frequency.
I highly recommend. Yeah, everybody attend my webinar. If you go to cosmicgaia.org, you'll see it on the homepage, and it's on Sunday. It's like a 2-hour presentation with visuals. Anybody that attends can book a 15-minute check-in with me. We can have a conversation. We can talk about your chart. If you want to book a session, you can book a session once you kind of feel it out a little bit. And I can get you a signed copy of my book.
Cool. Did you say that was cosmicgaia.org?
Yeah, so COSMIC Gaia GAIA.org. And if you can't attend on Sunday, you'll automatically be sent the presentation, and you can replay it as much as you want, and that'll just be, a great way to get to know me more and to interact and to get a session. I've been doing astrology since I was in my 20s, and it's just been wonderful. Like, really eye-opening.
I'm gonna have to take you up on that, Laura.
Yeah,
I
really,
was born on the
incredible. I'm
cusp.
so blown away by the charts. Like, every single chart holds something so magnificent. I'm just blown away by, like, and then some of the hardest charts I see are just some of the most unbelievable. It's just, you can't even, it's really wild. So I do a share screen. You can follow along. And and then if you subscribe to Cosmic Gaia, which is $15 a month, I do check-ins. I do discounted sessions. I have Zoom calls where we all gather together. And me and my partner, Jamae, who is an Akashic record reader, between the two of us, we address any questions. And It's a really great way to feel like a sense of community. You know, you can talk about stuff that you might not feel like you can talk about with other people, and really consciously move through blocks and different life events that you might struggle with, and feel like, wow, you know, you have a place to go that is, I think, very affordable for what it is.
And we're moving on up, isn't that correct?
That's right.
So to speak. We are ascending. So get on board and take care of yourself. As I say, who said this? Know thyself. Was that
And that's
Plato,
the beauty of
Shakespeare?
astrology.
Who was that? Socrates? I can't remember who had said it, but it's so true because it's exactly what you've been talking about. So,
Yeah, and that's the thing, you know, and that's my favorite thing to do is like, you know, it's like, know thyself. What better than to know your chart? And it's so wild. Between the transits, progressions, and the natal chart, there's just a tremendous amount of information there. One doesn't necessarily, you know, need it, but when you're just really not sure, and there's so many different energies, it's confusing. It's like, is that my intuition? Like, what's going on? Or like, why is this happening? It just like, boom, gets right to the point, and helps one really move through a lot at a much quicker rate.
oh, that's awesome. Well, I might have to have you do that for me at some point.
Oh yeah,
um,
totally.
that would be, and what's interesting is the elite always they pay very close attention to astrology and numerology, and it seems like your average American through their religious programming have been taught that that's taboo, that's bad
Right.
stuff. Leave it alone.
I know. I mean,
So-
everything about the system is like literally wanting people to shy away from self-awareness. It's all about like regurgitating what you've been told, being indoctrinated, or choosing a side, you know, of something, and then fighting for something, joining a movement, and those are all like, you know, important, but like, can we do it because it's, you know, true to us, you know, and what is true to us? I mean, a chart really, you know, helps us see that. If you're really passionate about all those things, you can still do all that. That's why I use like teachers and doctors, right? Just because you're moving away from that because you know that you're being compromised to push an agenda, you'll always be a doctor, right? But how can you use it in a way that serves you and humanity to the highest capacity? If you're concerned about the
Right.
environment, are you going to get pulled into a programming, you know, the climate change thing? And I'm not necessarily saying it's right or wrong, but let's look at your chart. You know, is that really where you want to be, or you know, is that like, you know,
As difficult as it may be, you have to walk
I don't
away
want to say like
sometimes.
there's a right or wrong, but there is a lot of baiting, right, with well-intentioned people for these things, that the chart can like help one to kind of see if it's detrimental, you know, because the thing is like some things can, you know, inspire our passion, but like where is it manipulating you and taking you further away from the goal? This is what the chart can be really helpful with too. And health. I do medical astrology. Sorry, go ahead.
It's another big know thyself thing right there because it
Totally.
it's another
and it has nothing to do
tool.
with advice. It has nothing to do with like, you know, it's really just me and just showing you what the aspects mean, what the planetary energies mean. And there's a range of how people experience it because the planetary energy, the planetary bodies hold different levels of consciousness. So, you know, the higher octave of Uranus is truth, authenticity, and alignment with the divine mind. The shadow side, though, is breakdowns, nervous energy, anxiety, and just rebellion without knowing where the heck it's taking you, right? But when you move through it and you begin to get in touch with it, it's just like, you know, you're shattering belief systems and structures that don't resonate with you. But do you have to battle it, or do you want to, you know, find your niche, find and create your own sovereign world for yourself? Because that's really where it's taking you, and that's where you find more self-employed people that just do it themselves, you know, have that strong energy. But you know, there's a certain level of moving through different levels and layers of it before you reach, you know, the ultimate expression of it.
Awesome. One last question. What about first contact?
Well, I feel like yeah, that I mean, we've been contacted plenty and we've already been invaded. I just
People don't know
a
it.
lot
Though.
of contactees, a lot of abductees. As far as like one that's going to be on the world stage, be careful that's not blue beam or something like that. I really feel there is going to be some kind of event, and it's important that we analyze it, look at it, talk about it. I feel the Guardians and the Earth Alliance are the ones we want to be looking towards. We want to be careful of the problem, reaction, solution scenario of benevolent ETs that look like they're here to help us, and also invaders that are looking like they're going to attack, and then the benevolent ones come in, whatever kind of scenario like that. There's a lot to be like careful of, but I think it's going to be so obvious as we see everything that's matrix deception is very glitchy. It's very easy to spot the glitches and the things that prove pretty right away that it's not authentic. But then there's also the over analyzing to the point where you can dismiss something that's true because we have conspiracy theory PTSD, or like, awakening PTSD. It's just like we're constantly being bombarded and can't think clear. So if you just want to just be really calm, really serene, really take good care of yourself. Don't get in that survival chakra. Really, really strengthen that discernment and intuition and bullshit meter. And you'll be one of the great discerners and guides for the rest of humanity when, some of these events unfold. Because we are galactic beings. We are going to be back in touch with our galactic heritage and families and see a much, much larger picture unfold. But there's going to be a lot of trickery that is going to mimic what the true one would actually look like. And I think a lot of your audience and a lot of us are already well prepared for that. But it's just hard to say when first contact's going to be. I think when we're spiritually mature and ready, it could be, just in your own personal life. Until it becomes something that we all experience. But, don't underestimate your capacity to experience something very profound just in your own world.
That's awesome. Well, Laura, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. And you brought out so many different topics and so much information that's critical to know right now. And thank you.
Well, I appreciate you having me. And somebody just said, is Blue Beam going to roll out? Some say, oh, they're not going to roll it out, and some say, there's no more Anunnaki or gray aliens here. I mean, it's just, it would be wrong of me to act certain about, these kind of questions, but it's just important to just, be wary and learn to listen to yourself. We hear a lot of certainty coming from outside of us, but make sure that you are developing something within you that can be your navigational tool to help you to move through any kind of deception to get to the real truth. And being true to yourself is key, of course. And my book is called Awakening the Truth Frequency, which is just about that. And so I hope you guys, can come to my webinar. And that's on Sunday, and cosmicguide.org. And I really appreciate you having me.
What time on Sunday? What time is it?
9 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Mountain Time, 12 Eastern. And again, if you can't be there, or you just have it playing, you'll get a replay, so you don't have to be there. But it'd be good to have the replay. So people, sometimes think like you got to be there live. You don't, and you can book a session with me on my website for 15 minutes. That you'll see a place under book for webinar attendees for 15 minutes.
Awesome. I think I have a show on Sunday. I don't remember what time it is.
Oh, and also I have a book that has never been published about things that are really incredible, that I'll be putting into my presentation, and I will give access to attendees to the PDF. And you're not going to find this anywhere, and I'm willing to share that. So I think it's really important that people have it. If you publish that, or when I would love to have you on again, if you have a book or you want to bring something, this was wonderful. I enjoyed it immensely myself. So, okay. Well, thank you. All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Shine your light and know yourself. Right?
Found our way. It's a brand new day, and we'll be making history. Are you with me? Won't you? just begun to play our part. This is the time we form the chorus. Lift your voice for those before us. We can rely on one another. Feel the pride, let's show our colors. We are heroes and dreamers. We are restless believers, stronger than ever. Never say never. Don't look back now. Don't look back now. Rise up, stand with each other. We are sisters and brothers, finding our place and running the race. We'll take our chance and seize the moment. Hold on tight and don't let go of all your hopes and dreams that light the way. We control our fate. Destiny awaits. We are all the actors in the stories we create. Hope will be our guide. We'll no longer hide. When we roll like thunder, feel the wonder from inside. This is the time we form the chorus. Lift your voice for those before us. We can rely on one another. Feel the pride, let's show our colors.